Good afternoon, it's that bloke on a motorbike. It's another glorious day. We've got blue sky, little white fluffy clouds, and it's quite warm as well. So I'm out for a ride, and at the moment I'm up in North Yorkshire, but I'm heading up towards Teesside. I'm going to a place called Middleton St George, and there's an airfield there which is now Teesside International Airport, but during World War II it was a bomber field for the Canadian Airforce, the Royal Canadian Airforce. I was reading a book the other night about somebody that was stationed there, and it was a bit of a fascinating story, and apparently they've got a memorial to this chap in the form of a 10-foot high statue in front of the old officers' mess. So it was a brilliant account of what happened. Really brave guy. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to have a ride up and I'm going to have a look at it. So quite a way off yet, so let's enjoy the ride up there, and I'll tell you more about it when we get to the airfield. So as is normal for Ivy and me, we don't like riding on the big roads, so we've picked more of the smaller little roads. Nice little bridge there over water. I plotted the route with Calimoto, so again, as per, anything could happen. We might finish up in Timbuktu yet. At the moment we're in Great Langton, if anybody's following on the map. Looks like it's an old farming village by the look of it. Oh, there's a big mirror there. Ivy will be getting a look at herself as we're going past. There we go. Oh, and another one. Unless you were looking at herself then. She does that, you know. Ooh, that was deceiving. I wonder how many people have gone straight on there. It's a nice twisty road, I know that. Not a bad road surface either, really. Better stretch your legs a bit, shall we? Oh, look at this road. Don't want to go too quick because I don't want to catch that white van. Oh, we're turning left here. I think it's here, yeah. Just before we get to those super twisty. But this is going onto a very tiny, or smaller anyway, what looks like a smaller little ivy road. Just watch that gravel going in. I've got to say, these Avon tyres are very, very good. Even on gravel, they give you a lot of confidence. Talking then, I've completely missed what it told me to do, but I'll just wait till it tells me to turn. Just before I started me ride in Bedale there, I stopped, just had a bimble up on fairly straight roads, and then when I got to Bedale I was ready for a coffee. So I had a cup of coffee, which was very nice, and a tuna sandwich on brown bread. It came with a little bit of a salad, a few crisps and some coleslaw, which was very nice. £10 odd just just over 10 quid it cost me. I know, before anybody starts saying that's what you pay now, I know that's what you pay now, but for a tight old Yorkshire bloke like me, it's taking some getting used to, is that. I nearly issued the Yorkshire war cry of how much? But it was nice. Sat at Marketplace, side of the road, outside this little cafe, little coffee shop thing, looking at Ivy. She was parked there at cobbles. Very nice, she did. Streatham. And even out here you can get Tesco delivery. It's amazing, isn't it? With just a little bit of planning and map work, even on a Monday, you can still find roads that are virtually deserted. I've only seen about 2 vehicles on this road, whereas if you're going on major A roads it'll be absolutely balmy. To use the saying of one of my colleagues at work, this road's mint. It really is. I'll just pull in and let this tractor come by. He's working. I'm on a few days holiday. Just testing out what it'd be like for my retirement. Even got a thumbs up from him. There you go. Can't be bad, can it, eh? Come on, little Ivy. It's got a sign on the left side there. We just passed for Croft Motorsports Centre for the race circuit. Croft is built on an old air base from World War II, so there were lots of different air bases around here, a bit like the one we're going to, which was Middleton St George, and as I said, it's now Teesside International Airport. During the war there were bomber squadron there flying Lancasters, and it was a Canadian Airforce base, and the person that I was reading about was in one of the squadrons, and they named all theirs after animals from home, and their squadron was Moose Squadron, and they were based at the same Middleton St George. More wooded roads again, through a little wood. I was just thinking back there that the character is completely different. What we had was lots of open fields rather than the grass sort of pasture land and moorland that we've been through. It's more open, flat, and agricultural. So we're coming into Croft Village now. Childhood home of Lewis Carroll. Now that's something I didn't know. So Lewis Carroll lived here as a kid. Alice in Wonderland, Alice through the Looking Glass, and all that lot. Amazing what you find out riding a motorbike. Really is amazing what you find out. It were quite usual. They couldn't obviously build the airfields right in the village, but what they did was they built built the airfield and named it after the nearest large inhabited area, really. During the war, the whole of UK was a bit like an aircraft carrier, with bomber bases and fighter bases. So the airman I was reading about was a Canadian, and he's called Andrew Charles Mynarski. He was born in October 1916 in Winnipeg in Canada, and he was born to his parents were Polish immigrants, and he had a sister. Oh, he liked apparently designing furniture, making furniture, and he was quite a jovial person. When his dad died, he worked for a few years in a leather factory to help support his family. So then we got the outbreak of World War II, and just before his 25th birthday he joined the Royal Canadian Airforce, where he trained as a gunner, aircrew gunner, and in 1943, I think it was March, we're coming into Middleton St George now, in March 1943 he was posted to Moose Squadron, which was based at Middleton St George. And now we've got the Teesside International Airport there. So this is the village of Middleton St George, and the airfield would have been up this, obviously on the outskirts of it, on the fringes. So probably not these houses, look a bit too new, but certainly the area he would have known quite well. So the reason that it sort of got to me, the story I was reading, was that Andrew Mynarski won the Victoria Cross, and he got the Victoria Cross for an action that at first nobody knew about. It was only when the rest of his aircrew were released after being in a prisoner of war camp. It was their 13th sortie or mission that they've been on, and they were a little bit apprehensive, as you can imagine, 13. So apparently he picked a 4-leaf clover and gave it to one of his friends who was the rear gunner. Andrew was the upper mid turret gunner. His mate was sat in the tail end Charlie position. Now, if you've ever seen in a Lancaster Bomber, once you're in there, you get in and then the turret rotates and you're absolutely on your own. You can't even have your parachute in there. If you have to bail out, you've got to sometimes manually turn the turret, grab your parachute and then roll out backwards, which is a feat in itself. So anyway, he gave him the 4-leaf clover, so they took off on the on their mission, and they got attacked over northern France, and the plane was quite badly hit, so everybody bailed out. And as Mynarski was making his way back towards the escape point, towards the door, he could see that his friend was in the rear turret and he couldn't move it round. So without thought for himself, what he did was he walked through the flames. He hadn't a clue that the fact that he was on fire and his parachute was on fire, and he tried with an axe to get his mate free, but he couldn't. So his mate told him that go. So obviously it was no good. So what he did was he went back to the door, and this is the bit that really choked me up. He stood to attention and he saluted his friend in one final act of friendship, I suppose. And he jumped. Now unfortunately he didn't survive. He landed, but he terribly burnt, absolutely terribly burnt, and he died of his wounds a little while later. Ironically, his friend actually survived. His friend survived. As it crashed, the turret was knocked free and he was taken into prisoner of war camp, and it was only afterwards that that all this came to light. Now I've got to try and find where this place is, because it's not up there. Now I did check on the map before I set off, and it said that it was the hotel, and it said the hotel had closed, but I thought we may still be able to get to see the actual building, and get to see the monument, but it doesn't look like we can, which is an absolute crying shame. So it looks now like you have to go into the car parks, which have got barriers across. Let me just try down this road here. If there's anybody about that looks official, I'll ask them. International Fire Training Centre. I'm just going to have a bit of a ride round and see if I can find anything. That actually looks... Let me try up here. It's not there. It's not there. It's certainly not there. Well, I'm on what looks like the old airfield track now. There's a number 2 hangar there. Not too sure whether I should be up here or not. That's a fire service training area. So don't think that we're around here at all. St George's. Right, so it is, I found it. It's on my right hand side there, but it's all closed. You can't get to go to see it at all. It's there on the right hand side behind the car park. Okay, right, so in that case what we'll do is we'll spin round and we'll spin round and go back. So it is just on the left hand side behind the cars. Can't get to it at all. You would go up this little roadway here, would go up there, but there's barriers across, so we can't get there. So what I'll do is I'll put some photographs up and I will read the citation. I don't want to do that while I'm riding. I'll do that as a bit of a voiceover because it is so important. But what he did without thought for himself at all was absolutely amazing.
The citation on the Victoria Cross, published in the London Gazette on the 8th of October 1946, reads: Pilot Officer Mynarski was the upper mid-gunner of a Lancaster aircraft detailed to attack a target in Cambrai in France on the night of 12th of June 1944. The aircraft was attacked from below and astern by an enemy fighter and ultimately came down in flames. As an immediate result of the attack, both port engines failed. Fire broke out between the mid-upper turret and rear turret, as well as in the port wing. The flames soon became fierce and the captain ordered the crew to abandon the aircraft. Pilot Officer Mynarski left his turret and went towards the escape hatch. He then saw that the rear gunner was still in the turret and apparently unable to leave it. The turret was in fact immovable, since the hydraulic gear had been put out of action when the port engines failed, and the manual gear had been broken by the gunner in his attempt to escape. Without hesitation, Pilot Officer Mynarski made his way through the flames in an endeavour to reach the rear turret and release the gunner. While so doing, his parachute and his clothing up to the waist were set on fire. All efforts to move the turret and free the gunner were in vain. Eventually the rear gunner clearly indicated to him there was nothing more he could do and he should try to save his own life. Pilot Officer Mynarski reluctantly went back through the flames to the escape hatch. There, as a last gesture to the trapped gunner, he turned towards him, stood to attention in his flaming clothing and saluted before he jumped out of the aircraft. Pilot Officer Mynarski's descent was seen by French people on the ground. Both his parachute and his clothing were on fire. He was found eventually by the French, but was so badly burned he died from his injuries. The rear gunner had a miraculous escape when the aircraft crashed. He subsequently testified that, had Pilot Officer Mynarski not attempted to save his comrade's life, he could have left the aircraft in safety and would doubtless have escaped death. Pilot Officer Mynarski must have been fully aware that in trying to free the rear gunner, he was almost certain to lose his own life. Despite this, with outstanding courage and complete disregard to his own safety, he went to the rescue. Willingly accepting the danger, Pilot Officer Mynarski lost his life by the most conspicuous act of heroism which called for valour of the highest order. So Andrew Charles Mynarski willingly gave his own life to try to save his friend Pat, and as a last gesture saluted. That is what you call a hero.
Right, so thanks for joining me. Sorry it just ended without being able to actually see it. If you're a subscriber, thanks very much, I really do appreciate it. If you're not a subscriber, then please consider it, because it does help enormously with the YouTube. Like it, leave me a comment, share it with somebody, do what you want with it. If you're out on your bike, stay safe, keep the shiny side up and the rubber side down, and I will see you out on the road. Bye for now, folks. Bye.